What I have for you today are 2 new rooms, some trap inserts, some new clip-ons, and even a scratch-made miniature on part 6 of my no-compromise Tomb of Horrors build. Part 6, let's keep the momentum going. Glue guns on, brushes up, all cannons to bear. Let's craft some Tomb of Horrors. And remember that our sponsor is Heroes Horde for you 3D printers out there. Excellent selection, including all True Tiles lines. Room 19, the laboratory and mummy preparation room. All the walls are lined with shelves, and upon that are old jars and ingredients. There's a desk, 2 workbenches, and 2 mummy preparation tables. All over there's pots, urns, ointments, oils, linen wrappings, and all kinds of other junk. So there's a lot of flavor in that description. I don't think it's worth modeling all of it to a T. I'm going to make enough little stuff to make the room look chaotic, make it feel like a laboratory. Work smart, not hard. Jars and bottles on the shelves. I'm going to tap all the way back to, I think it's episode 7, the potion vendor, and just make a bunch of those. So I've got these rainbow beads, and then these much smaller Toho seed beads. I simply attach 2 of them together with some super glue and accelerant, and then super glue that potion onto a shelf, which is just a popsicle stick painted brown and hot glued onto a normal clip-on. Again, we've covered clip-ons before, so I won't go into detail here. Although the whole room is lined with shelves, I'm only going to make 4 of these and scatter them randomly. That's enough to give the idea and trick the eye into thinking that there's a lot of chaos in the room. I think for mummy preparation chamber, it is important that I hone in on the linens. And for some reason, I can't shake the image of those parchment rolls from Skyrim. You know what I'm talking about? Well, if you don't, here's what they look like. Anyway, I took some beige cardstock. This is thin 30-pound cardstock. A manila folder would work fine too. And I just manually ripped it so I have crude rough edges. Strips that are about, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch wide. Then I mixed up some white PVA glue, such as Elmer's, with a dab of brown paint and some water to thin it, and just mix that up into a slurry, then douse the strip with it, and roll it up. Should only take a few minutes to dry, and then they can be attached. These tables are just more wood grain done the same way that I do my doors. And here's an example of one where I'm actually having it drape like it's unrolled and it's sort of hanging off of the table. You'd be surprised how little effects like that help to sort of sell the overall final result. Some of these I stacked into piles. And I have a bunch of these left over. I made a ton, so real quick I cut out some chipboard bases and painted those up with my dungeon scheme, black, dark gray, gray. And glued on some more potions and linens and a couple of the random things I found in my bits bin that have been sitting there for a few years. These can be placed anywhere around the room to, again, help create the illusion of chaos and really sell it as a laboratory. In the south part of the room are 3 large vats that contain murky liquids. The western one has dirty water, the middle one has a slow-acting acid, and the last one is filled with a grayish substance. For the vats, let's take a quick look at the original first edition module artwork for inspiration. Okay, so I see the general shape. It's got a big decorative skull on it. I'm going to use prescription bottle caps. And then this is a fairy garden fence that I got from the crafting store. I had intended to use it for some gothic building years ago. It's been sitting there ever since, but I chopped some short lengths, so just the spikes, and hot glued them on around the cap. And here's one of those plastic Halloween rings. Got a nice skull on it, just chopped off the ring portion and hot glued that onto one of the legs. From there, this has some smooth plastic, so it's primer, then base it in black, and then dry brush it with a metallic. Any metallic will do. I really like this treasure gold from Plaid. Plaid continues to be a great friend to the channel and our community. But just a good dry brush over black creates an instant illusion of shadow, an ancient texture. Nice. To do the vat with the dirty water, I simply took the clear resin that I like to use, mixed up a batch, and mixed in a drop of dark green wash. This is, I think, Athonian Camo Shade from Games Workshop. Not much, just a drop, and then worked it in there. Yeah, that's gonna look good. For the one containing the acid, again, that same resin, but I mixed it with a very intense light green. Poured that and then took another intense light green, slightly different, put in a couple drops and sort of tweaked it, swirled it around a little bit, just to give it a little something extra. And for the vat with the gray substance, I have these silver hot glue sticks courtesy of Surebonder. So I got the glue gun piping hot and just started to inject it in there. It doesn't mix uniformly, it's kind of got these swirls in it, which I'm guessing is like the exterior coating that has oil on it or something, but it looks pretty cool. I like it, and also super easy to do. I am awfully happy with how these came out, so I'll pause and show them off and take the opportunity to thank all of my patrons. Now that last vat is actually a gray ooze, so I used the same hot glue to make a miniature. The vat with the grayish substance is actually an Ochre Jelly. I assume that this was a gray ooze because the vat was filled with a grayish substance, and I glossed over that. I'm sitting here recording this, doing the final edit of the video, and I realize it's an Ochre Jelly. So, let's go make an Ochre Jelly. Well, I already made the gray ooze, so I might as well show you that. Real simple, just a triangle of chipboard that I sort of induced a curve into, hot glued that to a base, and then carefully covered this thing with that silver hot glue and painted the base black. Super easy, super effective. Yeah, it looks just like the T1000. Awesome. The Ochre Jelly is large, not medium, so this is a larger base. I super glued down 2 paper clips and bent them sort of into tentacles. Then some blobs of hot glue and these bubble-shaped hemispheres that I found at the dollar store. Stuck a couple of those in while the glue was still hot. Primed that up, base coated it with the airbrush, and painted it from there. Ochre Jelly, which is apparently gray. Here's the artwork from the book, by the way, in the corner of the screen. I think I nailed it. Note that I did use 3 shades of golden yellow to highlight this guy, so that's not the light acting off of it you see, that is a gradient of different shades of yellow, or ochre. These mummies are just 3D printed. I found them on Thingiverse, and I'll put a link in the video description below. Printed, painted, shaded, glued. 20 huge pit filled with spikes. This is a 10-foot deep and 20-foot wide pit. It's got a pressure plate in it that causes spikes to shoot up. Amazing. Groundbreaking stuff. It was the 70s. Moving on to room 21, the Agitated Chamber. This room is filled with funerary offerings and furniture. There's rotting sofas, there's chairs, jumble of stands and small tables. Stuff is dented, chipped, and broken. There's some tapestries hanging on the east and west walls, and among the general havoc are scattered several large trunks and a number of coffers. Okay, for all that trash in the room, I'm just going to represent it with a couple of these wreckage tokens that are the reappropriated pit traps, which we covered earlier. And also whipped up a couple chests. I've covered these before, earlier in this mini-series and earlier on the channel. I'll throw cards on the screen. These wall hangings, which depict weed-grown rocks and green and gold tan scenes of underwater sea life, are special, anti-magic treated creations of green slime and brown mold. Once again, I'm going to print and paste onto some rather large clip-ons. These are going to be about 20 feet long in-game. I just use Google image search and then Photoshop to sort of tweak the image into only having brown and green. This is actually a really cool trap. I love this. Basically, to put it very, very short, if the tapestry is yanked down, it turns into a green slime, and if it's burned, it turns into a brown mold. The clues are there in the picture, because the picture only has tones of green and brown in it. For the patches of brown mold, I simply cut a rectangle out of chipboard, painted it up with a couple shades of brown, some white glue, and then flocked it with this battlefield dust stuff from Army Painter, as well as a couple tufts of very dark grass. Made 2 of them to be prepared for the possibility that the players try and burn both tapestries. Green slimes, similar chipboard rectangle, cut into an ooze sort of shape, then cover it with hot glue and tease it all around, make it look chaotic, and paint it green. Also finished off the green slimes with a gloss varnish. Again, 2 of them. And now let's fly through all of it in context. We picked up last time at the false crypt, so we'll go backwards up those stairs, and then down the cloudy hallway, up some more stairs to a nondescript secret door, which is like on the landing, sort of. Easy to miss. Anyway, it goes through this passage, through a door, and into the mummy preparation room. I really love the dungeon clutter scatter pieces. Those were kind of spur of the moment. They'd make good treasure tokens for Frostgrave or something. But the possibilities are endless. Whenever you overmake stuff, just glue it to a slab and now it's scatter terrain. Personally, my biggest, happiest spot from this whole video, the linen wraps. Got lucky on that one, but they look perfect. One thing to note, if you use that particular brand of resin, it's in my Amazon storefront, but if you use that brand, it does take a day, maybe two, to cure totally, despite what the bottle says, but it will get there. So don't risk trying to touch it at 6 hours in or whatever, because you'll leave a fingerprint. Moving on through the west of that room, there's another stairway, the ingenious pit trap, and then another secret door to a regular door, and then into the room with all the clutter in it. And obviously these inserts wouldn't be there to start with, but once triggered, I just drop them in as needed. And for the false trapdoor in the corner over there, I just use another standard door clip-on. It's misleading for the players in the meta sense. Alright, fine people, stick with me because the best rooms are coming up. If you like this video and or series, feel free to subscribe, and if the idea of crafting for your tabletop games is new to you, you should know I'm not alone. Check us out on Facebook, the Tabletop Crafters Guild, over 30,000 members. By the way, here's 2 other videos that I think you'll enjoy. I am Wylock, make things and play games.